What's going on, everyone? So, Jaxson Hayes. I'm very curious to see, particularly with him more than anybody, how much is he going to play and how big of a role will he actually have? Now, obviously, Luka loves that outlet. Luka loves to just kind of get into the teeth of the defense, create that dribble penetration, collapse the defense, throw the lob up. Jaxson Hayes feasted. You're seeing Austin Reeves kind of get more into that party, right? LeBron kind of more into that party of just the Jaxson Hayes slam party, and he's really benefited. And I still stand by, I don't like him as a starting center. I don't think he is a starting caliber center in this league. I love what he's done. I think given the circumstances and given the situation, just kind of being thrusted and thrown into, from being a backup to even at times kind of playing spot minutes to not playing at all on occasion to like, now you're it. Now you're the guy. Now you have to play X amount of minutes and do all this stuff. And for him to step in and play that role, you applaud him for that. I want to make that clear. I'm very just appreciative of him being able to step up and play to the level in which he's played. But that doesn't mean that he is a true starting caliber center. It's just kind of like, you make do with what you got, right? He is the best available starting center because it's him or Alex Len. Who would you rather have? I'd rather have Jaxson Hayes at this point, right? But I still look at him more as a backup center. Now, thing is JJ Redick and the coaching staff really want to lean into the small ball. And you've seen it kind of more and more as this team is kind of, everyone's came back, gotten healthy, done their thing, right? You're starting to see more and more of the small ball version, which is our best version, right? Talked about it. We are going to live and die this postseason on small ball, right? I'm not saying Jaxson Hayes isn't going to play at all or anything like that. No, he will play. He will play his minutes, but big difference between him playing 14 minutes like he has been the last month or so, 14 minutes or 24, 34 minutes, right? Like big difference there. So it's kind of hard to judge Jaxson Hayes in particular than anyone else, right? But he is going to start. So I wanted to talk about him in this, hey, I'm breaking down all the players, right? Didn't really do Dalton Connect. I didn't really do any of the back end guys because Dalton Connect, I think, will play sparingly. I think he'll have a lot of DMPs. I don't know how much he's going to play. Jaxson Hayes, we know will play. We just don't know how much. And thus, I don't know how big of an impact he will have. So with that said, what he does provide is the role man, just a guy that can help with the rebounding and defense, right? Particularly on the inside and interior. Matching up against Rudy Gobert, he's probably getting picked on a little bit, right? Because he just doesn't have the physical strength and size to match up with Rudy. But he is a guy that when you need, and we've seen JJ, when we start needing some rebounding or we're having our struggles, he'll go and try to get Jaxson Hayes in the game and see if he can kind of help. But my issue with Jaxson Hayes is he's not a great rebounder for being 7 feet, right? We've seen games where he's had 25 minutes of action and he's only grabbed 2 or 3 rebounds. Talked about it earlier in the season. There was a stint, when we traded Anthony Davis, stuff like that. He had a 3 or 4 game stint where he only grabbed 12 rebounds in that entire stretch of games. And it was 4 or 5 games. He was averaging 2.5 rebounds a game during that stretch. And it was you're a center. You're the guy. We need you to do that. And we've seen games where, in 15 minutes, he's grabbed 8 rebounds. So it's finding that consistency and balance. But I do think he does give you, like I said, that size, the athleticism, right? He gives you the floor running as a big man. If he can kind of beat Rudy down the court, that gives you some advantages, especially for the outlet pass and the lob threat. Obviously, he just puts pressure on the defense, right? Because when Luka and Reeves, in particular, like to operate, get into that teeth of the defense, get in that dribble penetration, collapse the defense. Well, now you have to make a decision as the defender. Do I come out and close out and try to stop and defend Luka or Reeves, or do I, hold on and stick with Jaxson Hayes and try to make sure he doesn't get that lob threat? But then now Luka's on an island with that guy, and more often than not, he's gonna score, right? Same thing with Austin Reeves. So it now just kind of puts that pressure on the defense, kind of figure that out and navigate it in a way that you don't have when Jaxson Hayes isn't on the court. Jaxson Hayes, again, just being that high energy, high effort, can make an impact, right? He's a guy that can change the game, like, can become infectious, right? Like, he's a guy, you know what he's going to bring you. You know he's going to bring you that energy, effort, and hustle on a nightly basis. He's the guy that, is going to be running as hard as he can. He's going to be trying to fight. He just doesn't have the general tools that some of these, starting caliber centers have, right? Again, I like Jaxson Hayes. I would love to keep him next season as a backup, right? If you went and got, we'll just use Mark Williams as an example. If you went and got Mark Williams in the offseason again, right? I'm totally fine keeping Jaxson Hayes as your backup because he can kind of fill that role, be that floor running, kind of give you different looks. But for right now, I don't think he's going to play heavy minutes, even against a team like Minnesota, because the Lakers' best chance is to get Rudy off the floor, right? You don't want Jaxson Hayes on the floor because if Jaxson Hayes is on the floor, then Rudy Gobert is going to be on the floor. And the Lakers want to get Rudy off the floor because Jaxson Hayes isn't going to be able to stop Rudy getting offensive rebound stuff. Maybe on occasion, but more often than not, Rudy's probably dominating that matchup. Not so much in the offensive sense of things. Like, Rudy Gobert isn't this like super skilled big man who's just like, wheeling and dealing and is going to cook Jaxson Hayes. But as far as just being able to physically overpower him, that's probably like Rudy Gobert's winning that matchup more often than not, right? 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, Rudy Gobert's winning that matchup. Right? Now, again, that doesn't mean that you don't play Jaxson Hayes in spots. That doesn't mean that you don't run him at spots. I would almost like play Hayes when Rudy is not on the court, right? Like, like if Naz Reid is at center, I'd almost like kind of, go the small ball to kind of put Rudy Gobert in, get him out in space and make him have to defend. Also kind of make it challenging for him and Minnesota to match up on the defensive side of things. And then when Rudy Gobert goes to the bench, now Jaxson Hayes comes in, right? And you kind of just like, scatter those minutes. And then now you kind of have a better matchup with Hayes and Naz Reid as far as like now Hayes at least has some of the, some advantages over Naz Reid in height and, his leaping ability and all that stuff because he's a guy that can jump through the rim. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Phil, what are your thoughts? What do you make of Jaxson Hayes? Do you kind of feel like I do, where it's like it's kind of hard to judge him because you don't know how many minutes he's going to play, how big of a role he's going to play, so on and so forth. However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.